Welcome to Inside American Politics by Skoob. I'm your host, Bradley Teller, and today we're diving deep into one of the most explosive topics in American politics, identity politics. Now, before you roll your eyes or reach for that unsubscribe button, hear me out. This isn't another partisan rant. This is the untold story of how America transformed from a nation of political big tents into warring tribes, and why everyone, yes everyone, is playing this game whether they admit it or not. This episode is brought to you by Skoob, where you'll find dozens of deeper, unfiltered political breakdowns just like this one. There's a lot more waiting for you inside the app. Link in the description. Picture this. It's 1950s America. The Democratic Party is this wild, almost schizophrenic coalition. You've got liberal intellectuals in New York sharing a party with segregationist Dixiecrats in Alabama. Meanwhile, the Republicans? They've got East Coast liberals rubbing shoulders with Midwest conservatives. Evangelical Christians? They're split pretty evenly between both parties. Nobody could call either party godless because, well, both had plenty of believers. It sounds chaotic, but here's the beautiful irony. This chaos actually kept the peace. When your own party contains people who disagree with you, you can't demonize the other side too much. Congressional Republicans and Democrats would fight over taxes and unions, sure, but they'd also find common ground. Liberal Democrats and Republicans would team up on civil rights, while conservative Democrats and right-wing Republicans formed their own alliance to block it. But then came the 1960s, and everything changed. The civil rights movement didn't just transform America's moral landscape, it detonated our entire political system. When Lyndon Johnson embraced the 1964 Civil Rights Act and Barry Goldwater opposed it, they didn't just take policy positions. They carved out tribal territories. Democrats became the party of civil rights. Republicans became the party of the racial status quo. What followed was the greatest political migration in American history. Southern whites fled to the Republican Party like refugees from a burning building. Nixon's Southern strategy and Reagan's coded racial messages sent a clear signal. This is your new home. Meanwhile, newly enfranchised black voters and liberal Republicans headed in the opposite direction, straight into Democratic arms. By century's end, the solidly Democratic South had become solidly Republican, and the Republican Northeast had turned reliably blue. But more than geography changed, ideology did too. For the first time in nearly a century, partisanship and ideology converged. The big tents collapsed, and we sorted ourselves into ideologically pure camps. Now here's where things get really interesting, and where most people get it completely wrong. Let's talk about identity politics, shall we? I need to let you in on a secret that's hiding in plain sight. Everyone is engaged in identity politics. Not just some people, not just marginalized groups. Everyone. And if you think you're not, you're probably the most dangerous player in the game. See, we've weaponized the term identity politics. It's become this sneaky little phrase we use to dismiss other people's concerns while protecting our own. When Black Americans worry about police brutality, that's identity politics. When women fight for equal pay, identity politics. But when rural gun owners rail against background checks as tyranny, when billionaire CEOs complain about tax rates, when Christians demand nativity scenes in public squares, well, that's just good old-fashioned politics, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. This sleight of hand is brilliant in its simplicity. We've made identity something only marginalized groups have, while making dominant group identities invisible. But here's the truth that makes people uncomfortable. American is an identity. Christian is an identity. When politicians end speeches with, "God bless America," they're not talking to God. They're talking to our bedrock identities. Don't believe me? Then explain why there are virtually no open atheists in national politics. In a country that supposedly separates church and state, that's not an accident. That's identity politics in action. The identities that hold the most power are the ones that are so pervasive they become invisible or uncontroversial. It's like being a fish who doesn't know they're swimming in water. But the story gets even stranger. Something remarkable happened over the past few decades. something that reveals just how deep this identity transformation goes. We can call it the Great Awakening,